I am so excited to be speaking to the wonderful trio Storm and Stone, siblings, performers extraordinaire, singers extraordinaire, artists, wonderful artists who have been performing, I think, since childhood. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. And it seems to me as though music was an inevitability in your lives. You had instruments in the house growing up. Did it feel inevitable? Any one of you can answer this.
It was hard not to step on them. Inevitable, I guess? No, I don't think so. I think our parents were quite open to the idea of us either taking up music or not taking up. They kind of just left them around so that we could kind of come to it on our own terms. And I think that's kind of how it happened for us, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple of different instruments. You guys played saxophone.
Yeah.
And clarinet.
Some of the instruments are funny. Clarinet and saxophone were stars. Had a tambourine phase. That was fun.
That is an instrument. A lot of people would say it's not, but it is. I used to play a tambourine too.
Yeah, tried to learn the drums, and I, to this day, can only play a bossa nova. That's the only thing I can remember how to play. I don't know why, but...
That's all right.
Yeah, we kind of do lots of different things.
So can you each remember which was the first instrument you wanted to pick up?
Saxophone. I saw Lisa Simpson in The Simpsons, and when I wanted to be her, so I went straight for a saxophone.
Right.
Mine was...
Sorry, go on.
Clarinet. Actually, I wanted to play flute really badly, but I had a really big overbite as a child.
Oh.
And I closed my mouth, so I had to have the clarinet. That was the default. So that was me. What about you? How?
I think I wanted to play piano, but I was too hyperactive.
Right.
And so guitar was the only thing stuck.
So why did you think you were too hyperactive for piano?
Oh, unfocused.
Right. As in, just you would have been like all over the keyboard, too many notes.
Too easily distracted by the demos. You know how like every keyboard comes with those like
preloaded demos,
hundreds of demos. And it's just
the raw scalar.
Yeah, right.
Too exciting.
Yeah, right. Got it. And I suppose, guitar is a little more contained, and yes, you don't have the built-in demos. So given that music was inevitable, was performing together inevitable?
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah. I don't know that it was inevitable. I think it was one of those things where we kind of all came to music at different times, and it was, I guess, a perfect moment when we did come together. Also, Hal probably laughed because we kind of dragged him into it.
Yeah, right.
He didn't really get much of a choice in being in the band. Maybe retrospectively inevitable, but at the time it didn't feel like an inevitability. It felt like something to be avoided at the time.
Yeah, interesting. Is that just because there was too much of it in the house and you just felt like it's suffusing our lifestyle, we don't need to do it together?
I don't think it ever crossed our mind.
You released music solo before before this band. What's better now and what is not?
Oh, good question. So, I guess when I was releasing music prior to this, it was very heavily rock, very influenced by Led Zeppelin, and my absolute desire to become Robert Plant, mostly exactly him, not myself, just him. And so I got really, obsessed with that whole kind of rock scene and creating that kind of music, which probably feels quite different to what we're kind of doing now. We do have those rock elements that come through, but I think that there's kind of more of a calmness in how I feel about music in terms of Storm and Stone. It feels like a good place and a perfect home to be in. Yeah. Whereas with the previous kind of music, it didn't feel quite at home yet.
Yeah, interesting. And I suppose when you have a range of musical styles influencing you and also a range of abilities, it might take a while to find exactly that sweet spot for you.
100%, definitely.
And so, Ariel, for you and August also wrote and recorded some songs together. From the bio, I couldn't work out if the timing was that you had done it after you had started Storm and Stone when you went to Europe and recorded, or if it preceded this band. But was it difficult to have a third person, i.e. your brother, come into the arrangement after that?
It was the opposite of difficult. It was very easy because we're both not very good at guitar. So it was a boon. But no, I think it's funny though. It's like the dynamic. I think in a family you already have a dynamic, of course. But I think the dynamic's always been really nice between us. We're very honest. Some very honest dynamics.
Yeah.
But I guess it's that thing. It's sort of like August was saying. It kind of felt like home. So it was like that. Like it was definitely not uncomfortable having him.
Yeah.
Yeah, having him appear, having him be dragged into it.
And Hallelujah, question for you, which is your sisters have said that one day you just started writing on guitar. And I wonder, after playing it for a few years, because it sounds like you were playing it from a young age, but had that creative impulse been there for a while? Like, did you feel it kind of pushing in your brain, like you really wanted to write songs, or did you just wake up one day and go, hey, I'm going to write?
Oh, I don't know. I think, like, when I was 12, I started learning guitar. And at that point, it was just, like, it seemed like the logical step because I was playing in, like, one of those, like, 13-year-old jam bands. It seemed like the logical step to write some weird, angsty music about, I don't know what now, but it was natural.
Yeah, right. And sorry, go on.
No, you were saying?
No, I was just going to say, do you write, like, do you tend to write, as in record on voice memos? Do you note it down? I'm always interested in people's writing process.
Oh, my process. Well, I'm an audio engineer as well. So I go between writing first from lyrics or first from a voice memo, or I'll try and produce something first and write to that. At the moment, it's more freeform than it has ever been.
So when you say produce something first, you mean like actually produce the track and then think what lyrics song can go over it, right?
Write it as I go.
Yeah, interesting. Does it give you? Do you sometimes feel like you're almost reverse engineering the song, or maybe that you know too much about how songs are put together that you can turn yourself inside out in a song?
No, I don't think so. I think like any other skill, it's kind of like you get a better appreciation of different styles and different methods and approaches that yield different results. So I think like it's just changed rather than anything. I wouldn't say that like it's necessarily better or worse than any other approach, but it's just the approach that's working for me.
Yeah, right. And August and Ariel, do you, obviously, because you're not audio engineers, you're approaching construction of song differently. What are your methods for putting songs together or documenting what you're working on?
Oh, you go first, Ariel. Okay. I'm definitely a voice memo person.
Right.
For sure. But I think I would say, I think it's different with every song really as well though, isn't it? It's sort of like wherever the song starts. Sometimes it's like a melody, sometimes it's something like an old voice memo, or sometimes it's a line and then you're just writing from that point. So it sort of really just depends on the song, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that as well. I tend to voice memo, but usually it's at like 3 a.m. when I've woken up in the middle of the night having thought that I'd had a dream about the brilliant song that's going to like break all systems. And I then listen back to the memos that I took and it's like, I'm trying to get a better and clearer approach than my 3 a.m. musings at the moment.
And it seems to be the three of you are obviously so creative and in quite a flowing way, if that makes sense. Like there's a sense, well, at least I get the sense that you don't stand in your own way as creators. You will document at 3 a.m. You will put things down as they come to you. Were your parents like that, or did they encourage that?
Certainly.
We're laughing. The image of our dad at 1 a.m. stamping his foot while he plays the piano really aggressively really comes to mine.
Right.
So I think we were definitely inspired by that.
Yeah,
Influence.
So when you say 1 a.m., obviously there were family concerts in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them concerts.
New tinklings. And you've mentioned your father, and I was reading in the bio that I think it seems like your familial appreciation of music changed quite acutely after your father had a stroke, and he was not able to speak, but he was able to communicate through music in a way. So what role did music play in his recovery?
It was actually a really key part of rewiring his brain. So basically, he had the stroke on the table, and at the time, we didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
And he just kind of started playing music a lot to be able to kind of rewire it, because he'd read somewhere in some psychology paper or some neuroscience paper somewhere that could help to forge new neural pathways.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of started doing that, as well as writing words backwards and forwards, reading things backwards and forwards, until he kind of started piecing back together his brain, essentially, and how he could read and write again. And he still has some of the after effects of that today, but It was absolutely phenomenal watching him do that. And I think that's kind of been a big influence in terms of our work ethic, and that if you put your mind to it, you actually can make things happen.
Yeah, right. I mean, it would have been so difficult to watch your father like that, but at the same time, it seems you were able to step back and observe that experience and learn from it.
Yeah, 100%. It was, we kind of laughed because at the time, we were kids. We completely did not understand what was going on, and he was just playing music at 1 a.m.
The gravity
situation, we didn't know. But when we kind of reflect on it today, and especially in the way that we approach our songwriting and definitely with my 3 a.m. music, it's my feeling.
Yeah, right. I'm also wondering whether, in seeing how music was so important to his ability to communicate, whether you feel individually as musicians and writers that you communicate more fluently through your music. Not that you're obviously perfectly adept at communicating when you're speaking as well. I'm just wondering if you feel like, in terms of communicating, what you truly want to communicate to others, do you feel that music is the best pathway for that?
I think definitely. I think it allows you to, certainly for me, I sort of think when you were asking that question, it just allows you to communicate things that you would never communicate as honestly or directly to anyone. You would never say that. You would never say those things, really. Or if you have, you instantly regret it. You regret it in real life. Correct.
Yeah.
I completely agree with Ariel.
It's interesting you say that, because your singles, the two most recent ones, Town That Made Me and Fire and Smoke, do not shy away from big themes. You are not wading in a shallow pool when it comes to the lyrics. There's family, foundation, connection, and also sadness in one. There's betrayal and love and identity in the other. So I think, just what you're saying, what music allows you to talk about. Some people would use that opportunity to put out a fairly, banal love song, for lack of a better term, but you've really gone for it. And these are your first songs to the world. So I'm wondering if that was a conscious decision, or actually from what you said, it wasn't really a conscious decision to write deeply lyrically. It's actually just how you are.
Yeah, I think we're quite honest individuals, and I think the way that we kind of grew up and the way that our parents definitely wanted us to present ourselves to the world was to be proud of who we were and where we'd come from, because we do have a mixed background. We were a bit different to everybody else that we were growing up around, that it was important, I think, for them that we had that instilled in us. And when it comes to songwriting and in terms of honesty of emotion, music is one of those places where it allows you that space to just feel, to emote, to really lose yourself in the rawness of an emotion and work through things. And for me, certainly, it's kind of the place where if I'm feeling things really, really deeply, I don't necessarily always show it on my face. I'm quite a happy person. I put out quite a positive, or what I hope to be quite a positive outward view for other people. But when it comes to songwriting, the one place that I think that I allow myself to actually feel things quite deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we wanted to do when we came into the record, and when we were looking at all the songs that we'd kind of worked together on, that we wanted to, for all of these songs, do honour to that emotion and treat them with that sensitivity of emotion and the rawness that kind of is felt with it.
I think as well, sort of what you were, I was just thinking when you were talking, August, and the question you were asking, it was, I think maybe now it's only kind of occurring to me now that perhaps like some of the, you know, our parents are, I guess we're first generation migrants, Australians. And so I think a lot of, you know, that expression, like you're not able to express a lot when you're building a life. Like you're very focused on surviving and working and all of those things. And so I think, you know, we've really had a freedom to be able to do that in a way that I guess our parents didn't. So, you know, it's, I don't know, that's never occurred to me before, but maybe it's like that space that they've really created. Yeah.
Do you feel there's almost a responsibility to communicate that way, given what you were saying about your family background? Your parents, you know, didn't have that space necessarily. I mean, it may not even be anything explicit that's happened or said within the family, but just that sense that, all right, well, we now have this opportunity and we're going to run with it.
I think so, and I was just, you know, not to make it sound blasé, but I think our parents are very honest.
Right.
Well, they don't hold back if they think. They don't shy away. They're not going to shy, you know, and I think it's good, but no one's going to shy away in the family from going, well, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, right.
You know, well. So I think, I think maybe you do feel a bit of a responsibility, but you also feel like you might get laughed at a little bit.
But don't worry, because your family will definitely laugh at you harder than anyone else. So it's not a good tough skin for it.
So it sounds almost like you had built-in critiquing workshops going on which to me explains why your music is of such high quality, because often when you're starting out as artists, I mean, I know you've all done a lot for years, but these are the first singles from you as the band, and you know, they're fantastic. They're so well produced. Obviously, Hallelujah has his background in audio engineering, so that's not a surprise, but it almost seems like you've come through a family workshop process to get to the point where the songs are at this level of maturity.
First of all, thank you so much for the first comment. And yes, there were many family workshops.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, how brutal they got. But I think, again, like being in a band, especially if you're going to go on the path of being in music, it's one of those inevitabilities that you have to get comfortable with, that it's not necessarily going to be the first pass that you make at a song. No. That's going to be the one that gets to the record, and it's also not necessarily going to be that song that makes it either.
Yeah.
And 99% of the songs you write are not going to make it onto any recording, probably. But they're always a little bit closer to getting to the right place.
Yeah, right. I have a train of thought there and it's completely gone out of my head. No, it's back. Which is that, I mean, given that you have each other to sing to and write for, I'm wondering if you're conscious of an audience. Like, do you feel, because there's that sense of immediacy in the recordings, no matter which of you is singing, where it does feel like there's a strong connection with the listener. And I'm wondering if you're conscious of that listener or that audience when you're writing and performing, or whether you do sort of write for each other and it's just a byproduct that we feel that connection as listeners.
Ariel?
I think it's, you know, first of all, I think it's probably different, so maybe the same, maybe different for each of us. But I think almost going back to what you were saying about the way that music can sort of transform, you know, your life, and we've all been that listener, I think, where we have been at that moment in our life where things maybe aren't that good and a song comes on and you feel a little bit better for that period of time. And so I think that definitely the listener is absolutely foremost in terms of understanding that you've been that person who's like in that spot that needs, and I think it is a really I sort of think, gosh, for everyone that writes music, what a lovely thing to be able to do for other people, to be able to reach people when they're in that spot. And so, I think it does, actually. It does, definitely. I think also for this record, it was something that we really discussed and talked about with our producer, Matt here of Auntie, and he kind of worked really, really hard in terms of wanting to kind of make sure that it was really present, that we wanted it to feel as if the listener and the audience were just sitting in our lounge room with us, experiencing it with us.
Right.
Like, we wanted to make sure that record had, or the songs themselves had that kind of intimacy, yeah. That was really important to us. So I think we did have, we made conscious decisions to do that as well. And I think we definitely, when we were recording, we didn't always necessarily use the best take as the take that we used on the record. The most perfect take. We used the one that felt right, correct, that felt the most intimate and felt the most emotional.
Yeah, right. And it's always so interesting how an intention to do something can alter a performance or any piece of creative work. I think it's because I know there are a lot of workshops out there and teaching of creative writing and teaching of how to write a song and how to perform, but I really think the intention can make a huge difference. But it's a mystical process, really, because there's no technical way to say, oh yes, we'll have that intention and then it comes out like this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, agree. I think you can go in with an intention, but you have to, or at least in my view, kind of with music, you have to let it flow how it's going to flow.
Right.
And you can't force it into being one particular way. You just have to kind of let it speak for itself.
Yeah, and also speaking of other mystical processes, there is the way you sing together. So, because sibling harmonies are, I think, this beautiful mystery. The McClymonts are an example, and when I've interviewed them in the past, I once asked, do you work on your harmonies? And they're like, no, pretty much just, it comes out that way. And so for you singing, performing together, is there something unspoken in terms of how you work together?
Everyone just looked at me, Ariel, because I'm the worst. It comes out how it comes out.
Yeah. Well, that's presumably the best, not the worst.
But they're good. These two are good. No, she's really good. I think we've kind of just made some conscious decisions around where each one person's voice sits, and as to how we kind of niche out the harmonies. So Ariel will often sing melody or highs because they're easy to quickly.
We certainly harmonise.
We make it work. However we get there, we make it work. I'm getting dirty looks here. That's what I'm getting.
Well, you certainly do make it work. And I'm also wondering, therefore, in making it work, does your sibling dynamic come into the band dynamic, or in working together, do you actually work differently than how you would in the family?
Ooh.
I think it's different.
Yeah. You think like what you can elaborate?
I think there is like a sort of distinction between like the family and the band to some degree.
There's family Hallie and there's band Hallie.
Yeah.
There's business Hallie and then there's fun time Hallie.
It's a different like social environment. It's a different selection. I mean, it's just the three of us making music rather than the six of us in our family arguing.
Yeah.
Over a Christmas turkey. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to be more, maybe more like, I think you have to have less ego. Yeah. To be honest, I think you have to check your ego at the door, which can be quite hard in family dynamics. Like, you can take that into your family dynamic. Absolutely, that's fine.
Well, I guess, yeah, because you're bringing like all the baggage of the family and your relationships to each other individually and as a group within the family come into the recording studio, but then that's not necessarily what's the best for the song you're recording that day.
Oh, yeah, and it's unavoidable. And I think we've been there a few times, haven't we? Yeah. I think the thing that we always kind of come down to with us as a band is that when we're kind of having creative disagreements or we don't necessarily see eye to eye in terms of creativity. We remember we're going to see each other at Christmas. So we have to work it out.
Nice. Now I'm just checking the time, and so I'm coming up on my time, so I'm going to ask you one last question, which is that your music has already appeared in a film, which was so The Town That Made Me is in the 2021 feature Love You Like That. What's next? A lot of people would never get a song into a film. How do you move on from that? Is there an album coming? What else are you planning?
Well, we are also surprised that we did not get a film, and we feel really, really grateful for the opportunities that we've kind of been afforded. We do have an album coming out next year. If you kind of follow us on social media or go to our website, which is johnstoneofficial.com, you'll actually be able to kind of keep up with us and to when that's going to drop. We do have more singles coming out in the coming year that are also from that album, of which these songs, Bad, Town That Made Me, and Fire and Spark the Current song and single Out, are all on this album. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited to kind of start pushing towards that next.
That does sound very exciting. As someone who loves your music, to have more of it would be an absolute treat. No, it's lovely. It's just, one hears a lot of music, particularly writing about it. And as soon as I heard Town That Made Me, I thought, this is just a beautiful feeling of everything being right in the world, which, as we know, is what music can do for us.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I look forward to the next release from you.
We look forward to sharing it and hopefully talking to you again in the future.
Fantastic.
Really love to.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye.